Phil Britt. I'm the museum curator at Edgbaston. I've been here since 2001, so this is my 25th year, and it's been an interesting 25 years, which has seen huge changes and developments.
Sir, if you could give us the history behind the name Edgbaston, from where it comes.
Well, Edgbaston is the area. It's the name of the area. So Edgbaston Stadium is based on the area called Edgbaston, which is part of Birmingham. So it's not associated specifically with the cricket. Obviously, a lot of people do associate it, but the whole area we're in is Edgbaston, and it's the postal code, Edgbaston, Birmingham. So it's a name which had been here long before the cricket was here.
Yeah. So is the name associated with something? Is there a meaning that people might want to know?
Not that I'm aware of. No, it's nothing which is a huge interest, I'm afraid.
So what I would say the top names or the iconic matches that has been played at the stadium?
Right, okay. Well, over the years, there have been things like semi-finals of the World Cup where we've had really close games between Australia and South Africa, which was all decided virtually with a run out in one of the World Cups here. But the biggest game, I think, has been the 2005 Ashes match here at Edgbaston, where where England beat Australia on the fourth morning of the game by 2 runs. And it was just down to a very fine catch behind by Gareth Jones, the wicketkeeper, which ended Australia's stout effort to try and score 50 runs with just 2 wickets left. They were really unfortunate because it proved afterwards that it actually hadn't hit the gloves of the batsman. It had brushed his arm, but the umpire gave it in favour of England. But that was a fantastic game. The atmosphere was terrific. And England that year went on to get the Ashes as well.
So what are the most, as you're the curator and you know every artifact in this museum, what would you say the most interesting or most iconic memorabilia to be here in the museum?
Well, we've got several different types of pieces of memorabilia. We've got a grandfather clock, which people say, well, what would that do in a museum? But it was presented to somebody who played in the very first class cricket game in 1894 here at Edgbaston, a chap called Hill, and it was presented to him just after the turn of the century, 1903. But it was presented to him for his work he did for the Birmingham Cricket League, and it just happened that he was also an ex-Warwickshire player. And that was given to us about 3 years ago in 7 or 8 different pieces. We've had it all put together again. We had to try and find somebody who could make sure the grandfather knew how to put a grandfather clock together and make it work. Now it works and chimes, and during this interview you might hear in the background it chiming it as well. But that's one of them. We've obviously got things like the ball from the 2005 game. We've got a lot of memorabilia from the year that Warwickshire, which this is a Warwickshire in England museum, the year that Warwickshire won 3 domestic trophies out of 4, were runners-up in the 4th. That's something which has never happened before or since. So that's fairly unique in terms of English domestic cricket. And we've got a lot of the memorabilia from that. And that's where Brian Lara got the world record score that season of 501. We'd like to have had Lara's bat, but unfortunately he retained that to use in his own personal museum. We have tried, but with no success. But we have got a stump from that game, although when you make 501 not out, the stumps didn't come into play very much during that time. But he signed, we had it split down the middle, and that's been signed. And we've got lots of pictures. And he actually was in the museum, Brian, about 3 months ago.
Okay.
And he autographed a big portrait, which we've got of him, which we've been waiting to do. And we had a bat signed by the Warwickshire side from 1994 with all the players, but there was one name who hadn't signed. That was Brian Lara, because in 1994 he wasn't great at turning up on time, and when the bat was being signed, Brian actually was AWOL. But 30 years on, we got him to sign in the spot we'd left for him. Wow. We knew at some stage we'd get it. So he completed it. So that's quite good.
What would you say your favorite item, memorabilia in this museum to be?
I like things like which I've seen people do. Ian Bell, who played for England
Yeah.
100 times. We've got Ian's bat when he became the youngest centurion for Warwickshire. And then we've got another bat of his, which is when he completed his 100th Test match. So putting those two together, where you see somebody at the beginning of their career and then towards the end of their career being able to do it. And Ian is a lovely guy, supports the museum, comes in here regularly. So that's one of my favourite pieces. I was a great fan of Jonathan Trott as well, who another England player, and we've got some memorabilia from Jonathan, and which I'm keen on as well. Jonathan Trott's memorabilia, I'm keen on that. And then on the older stuff, we've got stuff going back to well before Warwickshire became a first-class county. We've got caps, Free Foresters caps going back to about 1860, cricket balls. We've got autographed cricket balls by the Australians from 1902, the very first Test match at Edgbaston. That was the Test match Warwickshire, England bowled Australia out for 36, which is still the lowest score Australia ever made in a Test, in an innings in a Test match. So we've got all that sort of equipment, I think. So we've got a really good range right the way through. Let's start here. They used to put posters. These are posters going back to 1936. A player called Arthur Croom, who probably is not known in India, but played for Warwickshire, scored 36,000 runs for Warwickshire.
Wow.
Took over 1,000 wickets. This was his benefit, and this was an advert for the local newspaper where he got a century batting at Lords, and those sort of posters were all quite common with selling newspapers. Here we've got something completely different, range of bats from the 2003 South African World Cup.
Okay, where India and Australia played the final.
That's right, and you look along there, you won't find the Indian bat because it's out in the main museum.
Okay.
They got these, and everybody who played has signed these.
Wow.
Including Shane Warne, who was sent home from the Australian side, but he actually signed them out for us, which he didn't want to do, but did. So those are quite nice. And the reason we've got them here is because there's such a lot of Warwickshire people involved in the different sides.
Okay.
So that's the only reason it's in.
Okay.
Brendan McCullum up there, the current coach of England, he played for Warwickshire in the T20. And he got the highest ever score for a Warwickshire player, 158 not out against Derbyshire in 2015.
Yeah.
Another one wouldn't give us his bat. Don't know what it is with these top players, but they like to hold on to their bats. But gave us a shirt signed.
Yeah.
I wanted his bat, but he keeps all his bats when he gets but these are just former England players who
played for
players. It's not comprehensive.
Okay.
That was at the time the print went on. What we have in here as well are memorabilia from 1930s, an England player who, again, not that well known, a guy called George Payne, but was a big servant for Warwickshire over the years.
Okay.
And here, get rid of the fly, is the cricket ball from the 2005 Ashes match, which we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
And that's the catch which won the Ashes, where England won the match by 2 runs. So we have that on display. The record score, which we don't like to show that much, in 1896 Yorkshire made the small matter of 887 runs against Warwickshire, but we pass on quickly from that. In fact, I'm not quite sure why I've got that up. That shouldn't be up.
Whose bat is this?
This one is Dick Lilly, who was England and Warwickshire wicketkeeper. That's from 1904. So it was actually, you can see it's so radically different to the bats they use today. But Lily played for England,
Yeah.
played for Warwickshire in the very early days. Out of the main museum, a selection
Yeah.
here of cricket balls from different games. Ball from the very first floodlit match in the corner here in England, which was at Edgbaston.
Okay.
And then we've got the World Cup in 1999 we're talking about, where Alan Donald, where South Africa and Australia met in the semi-final. And then a various range of balls. There's a ball here from Muralitharan, where he got 5 wickets in his first Test match at Edgbaston. And then some Warwickshire players. And here, these are 3 cricket balls from the 1909 England-Australia series, again signed. All around here, we've got the captains of Warwickshire over the
They're
years.
the captains. Eric
Quite
Hollis.
well-known people. Eric Hollis.
Eric Hollis, of course.
And Tom Dollery. Frank Foster, who was the first captain when Warwickshire won the championship for the very first time,
Okay.
1911. But there's more famous people up here. People like Bob Wyatt, who was vice captain he captained England several times, but vice captain on the Bodyline series
Oh, wow.
out in Australia. MJK Smith, who I think most people will know. David Brown, England bowler. Bob Willis.
Bob
who was
Willis,
captain.
yes.
Alan Smith was the wicketkeeper. Dermot Reeve, who was captain when Warwickshire won the championship and all the other
Brian
titles. Brian Lara was captain. Heath Streak, who was captain
Streak,
of
yes.
Zimbabwe. Nick Knight, who was with England. And then Ian Bell was captain.
Yeah.
These trophies here are all ones from the local Birmingham League.
Okay.
They're the original trophies.
Okay.
All these have been now replaced by new modern trophies.
Okay.
Here's the grandfather clock I was talking
Oh, yes.
about. Like a massive deal. I think it did go off while we were talking, so you might have heard it in the background.
Yeah.
Here's a bat from Brian Lara.
Oh, okay.
It's unfortunately not the 501 bat, as I said, but
Yeah.
it's a bat which is used in science, and we've got done up with it. Unfortunately, it's not the one he made all the runs with. And we have a load of glassware which has been presented to Warwickshire over the years, including probably not well known anywhere else except in England. Ashley Giles, who was the Warwickshire spinner and England spinner,
Okay.
when he was at Edgbaston, they made some mugs and they called it Ashley Giles, the King of Spin.
Okay.
But the printers and the people who made the mugs
It's
got it wrong and made it the King of Spain.
Yeah.
This mug on the end here is the original one which was sent in, and they've subsequently used it and made a lot of others. So the other 3 are all sort of spin-offs, having made this mistake in the first place. But this one is the last existing mug, which from the original batch where they made the original mistake. But the people who printed it thought it was Spain. How and why, I don't know. A lot of schools cricket, which in the area.
Okay.
And that bottom trophy is the oldest schools trophy in the world.
Oldest schools trophy in the world.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the name?
The Docker trophy.
The Docker Challenge Shield.
Now, you'll probably find
Since
somebody-
1886.
You'll probably find somebody who says, no, we've got one older than that. But we believe it's the oldest in the world.
Okay,
a lot of
sure.
other trophies presented to age group cricket.
Okay.
We don't now tend to send them out to the schools because, unfortunately, it gets robberies in the schools, get broken into,
Yes,
trophies
yes,
get taken.
sure.
So what we do is present them on the day. They have them to look at, photographs taken, and they come back in.
Sure. Nice.
This is memorabilia again, local stuff, because we try to make it so that we've got local, because it feeds in so much to Warwickshire itself, to the County Cricket Club. This is the Midlands Club Cricket Conference. This is where all the amateur sides play under that heading, and this is stuff relating to them. This section we've got here is on the Bodyline series, which again,
wow.
this is stumps and bats used in the Bodyline series. Bob Wyatt, who we talked about
Yes.
earlier, that's his blazer.
Wow.
And it's the blazer going back to the 32 Australian tour, which obviously was the Bodyline.
Yeah.
And then we got a tablecloth, which was from the SS Orontes, which was done by a lady on the way out there, got the England team to all sign it, and then embroidered it.
Oh, wow.
And we just recently cut that down. That was probably about 8 or 9 foot wide and about 4 foot deep. It was like a full tablecloth size in a big metal frame. There was no way we could possibly show it anywhere because of the size and the weight.
Yeah.
So we cut it back during the year, and that's now on display for the first time this summer. Just a range of bats which we have.
Fantastic.
And then here, every year we do for the touring test team, we do a sort of display of photographs from previous years. So we've got the Indian tourists from some of the years they played here in Edgbaston. Yeah. We got some bats from them. One of the unfortunate things now, we can't get bats from the teams. They won't sign them anymore for us.
Why?
We tried. They're just
keeping
a reluctance
keeping
to
it
do it
for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a reluctance to do it. It's a great pity because year after year sides have done it.
Yes.
But now England's the same. Just would not give them to us. But we do a cap here for the touring team. So this was the one from 2011, which was the first test after we built the new pavilion here at Edgbaston. And India were the first touring side to come. And that was presented to the Indian captain. And this is one which we had for ourselves.
I think Alistair Cook scored a 200 in that match.
Yes, he did. I was photographing it. It was a long session. There weren't too many things to photograph. This is from a guy who was a vicar. You can see the Reverend, the Canon Jack Parsons, who played for Warwickshire for a number of years. And we got, but these are all built up bit by bit. We got little bits of memorabilia and then a bit more, and we've added, and now we've actually got more than we can put in. It fills the cabinet, and we don't know what to do with it.
Since when is the museum running?
In here, it's been running since about 1970, but in a very, very small format.
Okay.
It was we had a club room with some memorabilia in it, and then it was changed into a museum in the 1990s.
Okay.
That was all in the old pavilion, which was knocked down. I'll show you a picture of the old pavilion in a second. And then we moved over here in 2011 when the new pavilion was built. Okay. We had two museums for a long time. One was what we called an interactive museum with lots of gadgets and stuff, but nobody used it. The kids thought it was too easy and the adults didn't want to know. And we didn't employ anybody to keep it up to date. And when it broke down, there was nobody to do it, and it was a disaster. So we closed it and turned it into a hospitality bar. Oh, wow. So we're the only museum. This is the ground as it was with the old pavilion prior to it being knocked down to the new one. And you can see on lots of the pictures there we've got the... We had here a thing called the Brumbrella, which covered the whole of the pitch. Okay. And it was really a fantastic idea because it was like a big sheet which came out and covered the whole surface, and then it rolled back up again. You can see the whole length of the pitch. Just rolled it back. Mm-hmm. The only problem was when it broke down, when the cover was out, you got no way of getting it back. So it rained. They put the Brumbrella, covered the wicket, but when it broke down, then you couldn't get it back again. And so what they had to do was get tractors and everything with forks on to lift it and bang it back across. And in the end, they decided, once it was a really great idea, and they spent a lot of money on it, it was practically not sensible. And so that went. So that great idea went. Here, there's a lot of cartoons for a chap who worked for the local Birmingham newspaper. Okay. And we've got all his paintbrushes and his work from when he was a child. All this he did. I think got 14 when he did these pictures. But he did lots of these sort of cartoons of Warwickshire players, and these used to appear in the local picture, and he did football, as you can see.
Yes.
You know, we've got loads of football teams in Birmingham, West Bromwich Albion, Birmingham City, the Villa, and he did those for all of those sides.
Okay.
And he used to do these magazines. And when that Aston Villa one went, they queued for about a quarter of a mile to get it. That was that popular, these sort of things. Now, if you put one of those out, you probably wouldn't get more than 2 people, and one of those could be his wife or his daughter. This is the bell from the old pavilion.
Okay. Nice.
We encourage people to ring, but hardly anybody does.
Can I do?
Yeah, of course you can.
That's one experience.
When we built the new pavilion, they wanted that back to put in there, but we said no, as we'd saved it, then they couldn't have it back. And that's the clock from the old pavilion.
Old pavilion.
Yeah, off the front of the old pavilion. And then up here, you've got some paintings, 2 paintings. That one and the one across there, to the left there, which is the old pavilion again. And those are done around about 1896. And you can see there's no stands or anything. People sat under the trees there. The church, which is at the back, there's some Ambrose. You can still go to that church. It's still there now, and you can see it from where the doors of the museum. But nothing's really changed on that. We talk about crowds. This was a county game back in 1949. Just look at the crowds out here. Wow. And this another one, 1951. Now we're lucky if we get 1,000 people come to a county game. So where have they all gone to? And big problem with cricket, with the red ball cricket. This was the England team from the very first Test match here at Edgbaston in 1902. And those names of those players, a lot of them are still, for cricket followers, are still well known today. And considered probably to be the strongest England team, even today, that's ever been put on the field.
Wow.
The Bazball people will say, no, we're the best, but these guys were.
So what's your thoughts on the Bazball people?
Yeah. This guy here, Gilbert Jessup, would have fitted in perfectly because he hit the ball around the ground.
Okay.
The other guy on the other corner, C.B. Fry.
C.B. Fry,
Yeah, you've probably heard of him. He was the world long jump record holder. He played football, cup final. He did all sorts. He was a real clever dick, you know.
And he also played for Oxford.
That's right. And he played, you know, he could do anything with the ball.
Yeah.
He even used to get balanced on the end of his nose. That's pretty much the museum, you know. And we've got something on ladies' cricket, which has just started.
Nice.
We haven't yet got a lot because it's only really in its fledgling period. We've getting England internationals. We've got a couple up there. Amy Jones, who played for England, but we are getting more and more ladies playing, and we're getting more and more into the England team. So I'm hoping that we're going to need to expand this cabinet. And whilst we've got one small trophy at the moment, I'm hoping that the ladies win some more trophies, and we can.
So is the picture is from?
That's the current coach.
No, that picture.
That one there, that Enid Blakewell one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Enid played here and got a century many years ago in here at Edgbaston, and she became the first centurion. I'm just trying to see if I've got the scorecard there off the top of my head, but yeah, she became the first lady to score a century in Test cricket.
Wow.
Here, as she came in about 5 or 6 years ago and told us that why was there nothing about her here. And when I said, well, you haven't yet done anything, she said, well, I got 100 here and I've not remembered, so we did something.
Sure.
Quite right, too. So that's pretty much in a very brief... Oh, one last thing, sorry.
Yes,
I'll show you, is the Bob Willis. Bob sadly died 3 years ago. He was the Warwickshire captain, an England captain. And we remember Bob with his blazer, some balls, his boots, Bob's actual
massive.
boots. So,
Massive boots. Massive.
oh, yeah. And that's the Bob Willis trophy, which we got.
Yeah.
And every year we have a day, Bob Willis Day, where we actually have collection toward prostate cancer.
Okay.
So that's the Warwickshire Museum in a sort of short, quick tour.
Thank you, sir. It was a lovely experience talking
That's
to
a
you.
pleasure. No, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, sir.